Today we're going to be talking about gamification at work, and this is part 3 of the series. And of course, this is all from the super cool, awesome book which you can get on Amazon right now called Game On: Reinventing Organizational Culture with Gamification. Now, of course, remember that everything we're going to be talking about here is easily implementable, so don't worry about having all of the PhDs and stuff. In fact, that's some of the things that we are going to be talking about right now. What is a PhD? It is a form of measurement, isn't it? I mean, think about it. What we've got different kinds of measurement. Now, these kinds of measurement, well, you can have things like PhDs, you can have things like superstar, manager. Those are labels to a specific level, which basically is a type of measurement. So let's look at other things like, for example, quality, the gold standard, okay? Accredited, 98% pure. All of these are measurements that refer to, well, basically a specific type of quality, okay? Then of course we've got comparison, also a form of measurement. Improved, first place. And of course there's also time, the 30-day challenge, 15-minute delivery. All of that are forms of measurement that affect our emotions, okay? And of course, we also have quantity. I got 23 likes, viewed 88,000 times. And of course, objective focused measurement, 28-inch waist, okay? 0 defects. All of these things are currently gamification type of measurements, but because we're so accustomed to them, they're so obvious to us that we don't really see them as gamification. But in reality, measurement does create a certain emotional connection to the different levels, achievements that are measured. All right, so anytime you measure something, essentially there's an opportunity to take it to the next level and gamify it. So when we're looking at organizational culture, one of the first things you gotta do is measure it, right? I mean, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about measurement. So you need to have a way to measure organizational culture. Now, the first thing, of course, is benchmark the organizational culture, because just measuring it and not actually seeing it move is not exciting, right? So what you want to do is you want to benchmark your organizational culture before you do any kind of gamification initiative. So here's what we use in order to do that, okay? We use the Ocean tool, okay? So the Ocean tool basically is a benchmarking tool for organizational culture. And the better part, of course, is that as the organizational culture evolves, it measures its progress. So basically, Ocean stands for Organizational Culture Evolution Assessment Navigator, okay? So that's Ocean for short, because saying all that and remembering it is hard. So what we do is we use this tool in order to start anything. Before you start anything, now remember, it doesn't matter whether you are in a big organization or a small organization, you have a culture. And even if it's one division of an organization, you still have a culture. Knowing what that culture is and knowing what you eventually want to get to is helpful, right? I mean, it's kind of like Google Maps. You need a starting place and a destination in order to actually have it. You can't just have the destination, because otherwise Google doesn't know how to get you there, right? So you have to have both, all right? So the next thing, of course, is going to be time. Okay, and time is one of those things where, well, basically the faster the better, especially in gamification and the motivational engagement effects that gamification has, right? I mean, think about it. If it takes you 15 years to finally get to that level, well, you know, you're gonna probably get a little unmotivated along the way, which would be bad, right? So what we want to do is we want to have fast, super quick, speed, immediate type of measurements and feedback. But here is one of the problems. See, some organizations are still kind of in the Ice Age style of measurement because they have these annual reviews. And now, of course, I'm sure your company's not one of those, right? Because you'll probably notice that if those companies, that do that people usually start getting a little bit excited and producing roughly about a month or 3 weeks before the annual review, which is not very productive for the other 11 months. And for that matter, how do they know that they're going in the right direction? I mean, it's all great if you've got a leader that is essentially making sure that everybody gets feedback all the times, but the problem is that most leaders also have a job to do that's not babysitting everybody all the time. Okay, so we got to have an opportunity, a way to basically measure people on a regular basis. The faster the better. In fact, if you remember what we discussed in the last video, what we do is we reverse engineer all of the objectives and we basically create or identify the behaviors that will help us to get there, right? You remember that? Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna give instant feedback based on those behaviors. Okay, so here's what we are going to do, all right? We're going to use an app called Squadly. Now, Squadly is super cool. Why? Because it's designed to gamify behavior change, right? And Squadly is one of these kinds of tools that supports having fun while being more of the person that you need to be in order to succeed. So it benefits the individual in the process, and of course it benefits the organization too. Okay, so what happens is that sometimes, we get a little bit relaxed, and like you're thinking, okay, but we don't really want to be relaxed. What we want to do is achieve higher levels of personal value. You remember that? Okay, that we talked about in the other videos. Okay, so what we use Squadly for is all across the board. Okay, so you've got the organizational culture tool, that you use for the culture, but now you're going to deal with individuals and teams. Remember, we were talking about individuals and teams, in the last video. So you got to have all 3 levels of measurement. All right, so here's the Squadly dashboard. In this case, you can see that you've got 10 teams and 38 people across 10 teams. Now, the teams can also be ranked. So in this particular screen, you can see that the different levels or the different rankings of the teams, and that means that the people competing in one team can see the people competing in the other team, and you can create some healthy competition. So in this team, we're showing the number 1 team, so you can see how it goes up and down. Now, of course, each individual within the team also gets ranked. And in this screen, we're looking at the number 3 individual in that team. So he's ranked number 3 out of however many inside of that team. So what happens is that the people who are in the team are going to get emoji based on the behaviors that you have identified. So if you've identified, let's say, 8 behaviors that are going to help you to achieve those objectives, basically all you need to do is identify and also set up peer-to-peer to get other people to identify people exhibiting those behaviors. And when you do that, you connect them to the behavior, you connect them to an emoji or an award. Now, an emoji can be positive. Let's say you get somebody doing some cooperation and that's one of the behaviors, and you see them and you give them a powerful emoji. Or maybe you see somebody kind of whining and not wanting to cooperate, so you give them a frustrated emoji related to the behavior of cooperation, in which case they get negative points. And so these points basically go up and down based on the behaviors, but it's giving feedback. In fact, this is a fun way to give negative feedback, which a lot of people sometimes have difficulty doing. All right, so now you've got individuals that are ranked, and you've got teams that are ranked. But what happens if, like, the team number 1 always is in the lead. Well, that kind of would suck, right? So this is why we need the element of resurrection. Yes, you must kill that and resurrect it, okay? Well, not killing, okay, but basically here's what happens, okay? Anytime you play a game, you notice how you die in some games and then you get resurrected. Well, it's the same thing, right? Because if you died and then there's no more game to play. And you can't keep it going for a long time. It has to be challenging. So if every time you start over, essentially you're starting at a zero slate, and with that your opportunities to win are renewed, and you learn from the past week or month or whatever time frame you want to set for it. We recommend a week. And so therefore now you are able to exhibit more of these behaviors. Your team is able to exhibit more of these behaviors, and guess what? The team ranks change based on what happens during that week. So certain teams may get some rewards, and of course they don't have to be monetary rewards, but resurrection is a very important part because it keeps people that are not getting it yet motivated and giving them opportunities to get it. Now the other thing, of course, that Squally does, which we're not going to go into too much here, is that you've got different behavior lists as well. So even though you may have the main list, let's say you've got innovation as a behavior, and somebody that doesn't make the main list, but they're always like number 2 or 3 on the innovation list, well, that's gonna kind of give them some motivation so that they're gonna work on the other elements or behaviors that they need to, and also get on the list. So you're getting a chance to get everybody to win sometime, somehow, and maintain higher levels of performance in relation to the behaviors that you want to do. Okay? So basically, all of that can be found in the case studies on the book Game On. And remember that if you'd like us to play a game with your people that will help them to create gamified work processes, give us a call and we are gonna set you up. And of course, anything else that you need, organizational culture change, where you want us to go in and show you visible results, well, give us a call or send us an email at support@directivecommunication.com. This is Arthur Carmazzi, ranked the number 4 in the world, organizational culture specialist, best-selling author, and sometimes funny guy, wishing you great success.